Thank you, Sister Jayanti, for being with us. And spirituality for well-being. Well, well-being is very much a buzz phrase at the current time, and it refers to both physical, mental, emotional health. And there's a lot of talk about poor mental health amongst the young, amongst almost every group in society. So how do you think that in today's world, with so many challenges and so many buzzwords for different conditions, how do you think that spirituality can help us?
Om Shanti, a greeting of peace to my sisters and my brothers. Well, firstly, I want to say that spirituality is not separate from life, but it is at the very heart of our lives. And so if I'm aware of my own spiritual identity, that's the first step of spirituality, just to know myself, who am I? And the more I get to know myself, the easier it becomes to connect with my own inner core values. And if I'm connected with those, then there's going to be peace and love and truth and joy in my life. Well, what more do I want?
Sounds perfect. But I know before I came to the Brahma Kumaris for the first time, happiness was very transient in my life and very much dependent on the opinions of others and whether they were happy with me or whether the role I was playing felt okay at the time. So how do I start to make that switch from being very external and people-focused to realizing that, who am I?
I think there comes a time when you start asking yourself the question, well, I've got everything I need externally, but why am I feeling empty inside? Why is there this vacuum, this void that I feel? And if those sorts of questions are coming up in your mind, then you start exploring. And your exploration will definitely lead you to the journey of meditation, I'm sure. And within the journey of meditation, of course, there's many, many different types of meditation now. But if you come across Raj Yoga, then the first step of spirituality for us would be to get to know the self. And when I get to know myself, I realize that I've let other people influence me, and I'm not in charge of my own feelings anymore. If you're happy, then I feel happy, and if you're not happy with me, I feel very upset and maybe even angry. So with Raj Yoga, what I understand, you get to know yourself and you get to be the master of your thoughts and your feelings.
That sounds lovely. How do I start?
But first, simply just by knowing that thoughts are not something that coming to us from outside, but thoughts are being generated from within. And if it's something that's coming from inside of me, can I take charge of this? Can I start practicing how to be able to manage my thoughts? Instead of letting my thoughts run and I follow them, can I now step inside and say, I, the inner being, am the master of these thoughts, and I can choose whether to have thoughts that are negative, or can I convert them and make them into positive thoughts? So, simple step, but that's the start.
Yes, it sounds simple. And in today's world, we are all so busy, running here and there, and there are so many demands on each and every person. It sounds as though, yes, they're my thoughts, so I can begin to take control of them. But then the family needs me, the job needs me, something else needs me. How do I begin to find that time, that mental energy to start that?
I heard a saying that a Zen master had spoken about a long time ago, and a very busy person said to him, Master, how do I make time for meditation? And the master said, every person needs to make time for 20 minutes for themselves, because that is how they're going to manage their life. If they don't make 20 minutes for themselves, they're going to find that life is overwhelming, which is what many people feel today.
Yes.
And then he went on to say, if somebody is very busy, then I would say that they need to spend 40 minutes every day in meditation. And so that sort of puts across that idea that, yes, I need time for myself to recuperate, to regenerate my energy. And if I can do this, I can manage my life more easily. But if I'm very busy, if I make more time for meditation, then it's actually going to be helping me manage my life more comfortably in a better way. Think about how you've got 10 things to do, and because you don't have that clarity inside, you don't know which one to tackle first. And you're doing one thing, two things, three things, and then you suddenly remember, but that was very important, and I forgot about it. And so you put pressure on yourself to do that. But in fact, what you could have done is spend a moment just seeing what's in front of you. And if your mind is clear, then you'll be able to know that this is important, and this is the next, and this is the next, so that you are not overwhelmed, but you just tackle it one step at a time, and it's then very, very manageable. So it's true that if I meditate, I'm more in command of myself, and I'm also more in command of my time.
I think there was a lot of emphasis on multitasking a few years ago, but it's beginning to change, and people are now beginning to say, or articles I've seen, that actually to do one thing at a time is really important.
I think so.
And when you speak about 20 minutes, it reminded me that when I first started to meditate every morning, my first thought was, I don't have time. And somebody said to me, it makes time. And the logical side of my brain said, that's not possible. But the first day I did it, suddenly I had more time. And so it is definitely worth trying, even when you don't think you have time. It makes it changes something. But, you know, this idea of who am I think, again, we're coloured from childhood through adulthood by what the world expects us to be. And so, who am I? Am I this physical being? This physical being changes with age, as we both know. And does that mean that I change? Yes, my thinking changes, but how can I begin to know who I am?
I think you need to find space in here and just go deeper and deeper inside. And when you do this, then you're able to connect with that silent space within the soul in which there is peace. And once you experience that, then you begin to realize that there's something separate. The peace wasn't in my brain. The peace wasn't in any other part of my physical form. The peace was deep inside of me. Am I that being that's able to experience peace? And in that state of awareness, can I be detached from this body of mine? I'm remembering that there was, I'd gone to Delphi in Greece, and there was a statue there, and the statue was of, the image was supposed to be of the charioteer, and the clothes he's wearing are not of the charioteer. The clothes he's wearing are of a regal person. And he's got his arms in that position. And it's not the whole arm that's there, but you can see what it would have been like. And his eyes are totally focused. Now, when you're driving, you're looking in the mirror, you're looking here, you're looking there. You don't keep your eyes just focused. And a charioteer, you know, just as you have traffic jams today, I'm sure in those days, they had chariots trying to overtake each other and so on and so on. But his gaze is stable and still, and his form is very royal. And it's actually talking about this, the charioteer, and this, the chariot. So I am the driver of this body. And so I've forgotten about this. And this is why I've lost touch with the qualities that I carry within myself. The values that I have within me have been forgotten. But as soon as I start thinking of myself as that authentic self, the inner being, I'm connecting with those qualities.
So are these the innate qualities that are within each one of us? And what does innate mean to you?
Innate means that its essence is what I am. And so it means that I don't have to strive for goodness. I don't have to battle for truth. But there's goodness and truth within the soul. But when I forget about the soul, that's when I'm struggling. And then there's darkness. I don't feel the goodness. I don't find that truth either in my life or my behavior. And so this is why things have gotten into a state of chaos that we have today. You mentioned mental health earlier on. If I'm not in touch with myself, and I'm not in touch with those inner qualities that actually make me valuable, my values are what give me value. And if I'm not following those values because I'm not aware of them, then I'm going to find that there's a discrepancy, there's an imbalance between what I think should be happening and what I'm actually doing. And so this whole idea of inner balance and mental stability comes through self-awareness, self-understanding, and through that mastery of thoughts and feelings.
Yes, I think if we aren't stable, there is a lot of confusion. And that, from my experience, makes it harder to know who I am or to know which way to turn or how to change.
A simple thing. How many influences are we exposed to?
Hundreds every day.
It's society, it's media, it's everything.
Family, friends, work.
That's right, or you name it, and it's a long, long list. And so all of those things are buzzing around in here, and I'm not able to discern what it is that's useful for me and what it is that's a waste of my time. Or maybe it's useful, but I can deal with it later. And so this confusion is also part of the instability and the lack of well-being of humanity today. And it's a general state of affairs. The other thing that happens with mental awareness or consciousness is that when I come back to the understanding of who I am, there's a dignity that I carry that nobody can take away from me. I'm able to value myself, respect myself, and because of that, I'm able to value others also. Whatever is happening inside is what's get reflected outside. And so because we're insecure, we're fearful, and there's lack of confidence, that insecurity expresses itself as the fear and the rejection and the walls that we put up between us and the other. It's a subject that really is at the heart of most of the problems of society today. In fact, last year in May, we had, I think it was the 6th or 7th forum for the Spirit of Humanity Forum. We've been having it every 2 years in Iceland. And every year it's had a lot of government support from the president's always there, the prime minister's usually there too. And this time, the president, a woman, Iceland's interesting. The president is a woman, the prime minister is a woman, the head of the church is a woman. So it's an interesting situation. And they have no army. They haven't had armed conflict for the last 1,300 years. So there's a story to learn there. So this particular president, she said how all the problems we have today are out there. And it's human beings who've created all of those problems. But the answer is not to try further, because we've been trying all sorts of things and nothing seems to have worked. But the answer is to go inwards. And if we go within, we'll find the answers. And so I was surprised that a woman holding that office is able to make that statement in public. Because many people believe these things, but they're a little bit shy about talking about them. But she wasn't shy at all.
And that's quite interesting because when I think about the innate qualities, if we've not experienced, we'll say peace in our life, how will we recognise it? Or how will we recognise these innate qualities?
Is there anyone who is in a state in which there's a bit of chaos around, who doesn't have that thought, I wish I could be in a more peaceful place? They haven't experienced that inner peace. And maybe they think that by flying off to the Caribbean, they're going to find peace there. And then they discover that there's mosquitoes and there's bugs and, and it's not as peaceful as they wanted it to be. And so I think that there's something within the human spirit, even though I might not have experienced it here and now, but there's something telling me that when things are peaceful, that's when things are good. Look at it in another way. When there's something that's causing you aggro, your blood pressure goes shooting up, your heart rate beats faster, the physiology goes all astray. And yet when those external things are calm, your body begins to settle down. So what is natural? Mm-hmm. Is it the excitement and the stimulation and the chaos? Or is it the steady state in which there's a little bit of calm? So we've all had that experience of how when the body is comfortable and peaceful, my mind feels at rest. And if the body isn't comfortable, then the mind is definitely going to be unrest also.
Hearing you say disappear to the Caribbean, for me it was, could the world just stop for 24 hours? I just need me to find me. And you know, I think I was told sort of the old music hall act of all the different plates we're spinning. And it really struck a chord with me because I got to the stage that I realised there was one here that the plate hadn't even got on the pole, let alone fallen off, and that was me, you know, with all the other roles we play, and that is so important. I think also we feel that if we're going to make big changes in ourselves and our world, it's going to disrupt our family life or our normal life. And how can we make it practical in a way that we don't have to change everything?
What I've found is that when a person starts to come to meditate, because they become a more caring person, because they're more considerate, more compassionate, more peaceful, their family loves it. And they tell them, why don't you go for your meditation? Because the family is benefiting from that. And so making big changes is another step. But firstly, just let me experiment with it and see how it makes me feel better and how that peace and that openness of spirit is helping me. And then, yes, there's a subject of vegetarian diet, there's a subject of early morning rising, but all of that can come slowly. It's not that you have to do it today. But things you can do today, as soon as you start experimenting with that awareness of the soul, then in that consciousness, you start seeing others, not just in the external form, but as that shining light here. And so it allows you to see people with a different perspective. Somebody was sharing with me the story of how they moved into a different neighborhood, and it was a predominantly white neighborhood. And this person is in brown skin. And he's used to going for early morning walks, and there's always people around in a neighborhood who do the same. So you tend to meet the same people every morning. And he found that just a smile and a conversation would begin, and it would be okay, it would be nice. And there was one particular woman, and when he tried smiling, for whatever reason, she got scared and she would turn away and she wouldn't respond. And he was thinking, well, is it because I'm coloured? And he then realized that, well, if I think she's being racist, well, I'm being racist also. And so can I just see her as a soul? He's a meditator. And if I see her as a soul and keep smiling, well, guess what? Within a couple of days, the woman was returning the smile, and so he'd made another new friend. And so racism comes from all directions.
Yes.
But if I can be in that consciousness of the soul, then I see others as that living being, that energy of love, of light. And so the connection I have with them is very different. And so life definitely becomes much more pleasant.
And I think with a huge influx of people from all across the world, recently in the UK, it's not just the colour of the skin, it's the accent and the style of dress. There's all sorts of aspects. And yes, I've experienced it in my family, previously, that people don't always accept. And it is fear of what you don't know. So I think it's very important that we hold on to this, who am I? And that one thing I found very helpful is I'm doing the best I can. And if I am, then so's everybody else. And that helps me let go of some of the judgment. And that lady that was the best she could do that day. And we don't know what other people are going through just by seeing the external.
Exactly.
So many people are going through so much in today's world. And we're very fortunate to have found the Brahma Kumaris and turned, well, I know I've turned my world around through it. When you said about the family appreciate, at one point my son said, my teenage son, "You're getting stressed again, Mother, go and play with your funny friends."
It's true.
Because it was different. They didn't know, and in time they weren't really interested for themselves, but they could see a huge difference in me. And, I'm very grateful that I've come and explored it. So I think if we don't change ourselves, even if we take ourselves to the Caribbean or a new relationship or a new job or anything new, if we don't change ourselves, we seem to just pick ourselves up and then create the same scenario again.
This is because we carry patterns of behavior which are actually embedded within the soul itself. And so you perform an action and you repeat it 2, 3, 4 times, and there's a pattern that's been created. And, 30, 40, 50 years earlier, people thought that whatever pattern was created within not just the soul but the brain, because whatever the soul thinks, that's transferred to the brain also. But it was impossible to change patterns. And today we know that the brain has plasticity. And so if you start changing your own behavior, then those patterns inside of you will also change, and they'll support you on your journey. And the other thing is that if I believe that we started our journey with goodness, then that's still there inherent within me. But I have to tap into that. People have this question, did we start off with evil, or did we start off with goodness, or did we start off with a combination of the two? And anyone with any sort of spiritual awareness, whether it's a traditional religion or whatever they're believing in, there would be some awareness that we're the creation of the Creator. The Creator is the embodiment of goodness, and so surely the creation has been created in that image. And so we've been created in that image of goodness. And so can I tap into that and allow it to be expressed in my life again? And, one person doing this is going to influence others around them. Now, of course, we have the laws that prohibit smoking in offices and so on. But before that happened, one of the sisters used to tell me how open plan office and about 12 people working there. And she used to smoke, and she stopped smoking. And people around her, what happened, what happened? And she'd tell them, well, I'm just meditating now, so... And they waited for her to drop the habit, either of meditation or of smoking, and go back to smoking. And it didn't happen. Went on for a month, a few months, a year, and people were noticing that the change is something deep. It's not just superficial. And so gradually, word got around and the whole office stopped smoking. So they weren't all meditating, but the influence of one person on others is also very, very noticeable.
Yeah, that brings me on to a next thought, that at this time of year, people are, I think next Monday is the day when most people have broken all their New Year's resolutions. And it takes effort to put the good work in on me.
Yeah.
And how can I sustain that rather than making it like a New Year's resolution? I've put in the effort, but do I still have to keep putting in more effort? And sometimes it can feel that, what's the outcome? Where am I going with this?
Think about a roller coaster. And when the car is going up, it needs extra energy. And so there's a connection with the engine, and that takes it up. When it's time for it to come down, it just comes down, just roller coaster, it falls. What that's telling me is that at the current time, the atmosphere around us is of huge, huge negativity. And so the easiest thing is to go down. You don't have to work hard to go down and pick up bad habits. There'll be plenty of influences that will help you with that. So at a time like this, if you want to go the other way, you want to ascend, it needs my determination, the right company, but it also needs energy from above. The second step of spirituality is to be able to know the source. First step is to know myself. The second step is to know the source. And people always say to us, well, do I have to believe that there is a superior, supreme being to be able to meditate? No, you don't have to. You can start meditating. But the fact that you're meditating means your mind is now on a different frequency. You're aware of the soul, not just of the body. And in that awareness, you can feel the presence of the divine. The frequency of my thoughts and the divine connect, and I'm able to feel that presence. So many people start the journey without any belief, but they discover that there is a being they can connect with. And why I mention this is because me on my own perhaps wouldn't have that power to be able to bring about change. But when I meditate, it's not just on myself, but it's also what we call yoga, union, connection. And so when I focus on the divine, the supreme, and in Brahma Kumaris we have a very simple understanding of God as a being of light, the source of all positive attributes. And when I connect with that, I receive a huge amount of spiritual power. And this is like the recharge of your phone. If you didn't recharge it, it wouldn't function. And so why the soul has become powerless, unable to make the right decisions, just caught up with all the mundane stuff, it's because we don't know how to recharge our own inner battery. And so a few minutes of silence, going inwards, going upwards, connecting, and then what comes outwards, is the result of what you've experienced in meditation.
I started not having any belief, and I know that I observed that things started to happen with a synchronicity that I couldn't explain, and I started to feel different about myself. It took a lot of work. My first teacher was very patient with me, But when I got it, I got it. And it is that feeling of someone who wants the very best for you, who, if you're feeling a bit low on peace or happiness or whatever, you can recharge your batteries and you can make that connection that there is always somebody there that wants somebody, but some being there that is always available to you. That you have to just open the door or open a window if you can't open the door to let them in.
There was a little notice that I saw on our notice board some time ago, and it's not there anymore, somebody's taken it down, but it said, "I have a lot of time for you, but when will you make time to come to me?"
Absolutely.
The first statement was from above, and so that being of love and truth and joy is available, and we get too occupied with all the things here, so we don't take the time to connect. But if I'm allowing myself to be silent, just taking that time to go inwards, away from all the noise out there, and even away from all the chatter in there, and just let the mind become quiet and watch my thoughts, I'll be able to take that first step of going on that inner journey.
I think even the physical concept of light, we all get happier as the days get longer. And if you just can start with that, if nothing else. And so with the being of light, it brings light into our world, into our being. And I think it then translates into happiness as well. So it's no longer transient, it's no longer dependent.
There's a very interesting image out there at the back, and the artist was sitting here. He'd come from France, Brother John Louis, and he made the picture, and it's based on one of Dadi Janki's classes, in which he said how when we have meditation with the source of spiritual strength and power, you're able to draw all the 8 powers from God into yourself, and it'll work as an umbrella. And if there's an umbrella, it'll protect you from the rain if it's raining, but if it's really hot and bright sunshine, it'll protect you from that also. And so I hope when you leave the auditorium or when you come here next, you'll have a good look at it, because it describes all the powers we need in our lives today. You know, just think about it, how if I'm tired, and usually it happens, that's a trigger. If I'm tired, the worst of myself comes out. And so normally I'd be quite tolerant. And if there's somebody making a lot of noise, I'll say, it's okay, let them carry on. But if I'm tired and exhausted and I'm intolerant, then why don't they shut up? Why don't they stop that noise? So all these things come up. But if I can just maintain my own inner state of tolerance, then whether they shut up or they don't, and whether the body is tired or not, but I'll be able to keep that equilibrium so that things out there don't shake me. And if I look at the state of the world today, maybe one word to describe it would be volatile. You just don't know what's going to happen one moment to the next. Yes, 2 days ago we were driving from Neasden roundabout just to where our house is in Willesden, and the people in Willesden were wanting to know how long was I going to be. I said, we'll be there in 10 minutes. It took us nearly 30 to 40 minutes to do that 10-minute journey, because this road was dug up and they had all sorts of things going on. And so 3 files turned into 1 file. And I said, there's another way, we can go there. And we went there and went down the road is closed. And so we had to turn back and join the big queue to come back to the same place again. Little things, but they can cause a lot of irritation and a lot of angst. Big things, when suddenly you lose your job and you've done nothing wrong, everything seems to be fine, but suddenly. And so big things can happen, little things can happen, but do I have the spiritual capacity to be able to deal with all of these things that keep coming up? And if I don't develop that capacity, my life is going to be not so pleasant. It's going to be very difficult. And if I'm finding my life difficult, what am I going to do to my family? You're going to have to help me. And when I ask for help or when I need help, they're all busy. They've all got their own things to sort out. And so I need to prepare myself for today, but also for tomorrow. Because probably the chaos of the world is going to... Who thinks that? Who agrees that the chaos of the world is likely to increase in the next year? There are many nodding their heads, but no one raising their hands. Yeah, well, I think it's going to be, if 2025 was messy, 2026 has done a brilliant job already within the space of some days. And I think we're really coming to that point where we're coming to the edge. But that's okay. Why? Because spiritual teachings also tell us something else, that things move in a very natural way. And so if things reach an extreme point, they have to turn around and change. So just like when it's dark, after the dark night, the day begins. Yes. And so I think that there's a lot of awareness today, more so than ever before. I read something very interesting yesterday, and it was that the generation of young people today, from 13 to 25, are more spiritual than any other generation in modern times. They're the ones who are seeking answers to the question of life, purpose of life. Now, doesn't that give you hope for the future? You know, we're always complaining about the young ones and what are they up to? Generation Z, what are they doing? What's going on? But apparently that's what it is. So I think we've hit a peak and we've turned the corner. And people today are recognizing meditation as something important. Meditation used to be for the hippies, yes, the fringe, and that's not true anymore. Meditation's recognized as something very helpful for life, especially if there's any sort of anxiety and tension and worry and stress, that without pills, like your son told you, without taking a tablet, your energy changes and you're able to cope with things in a way that was not there before. You know, if you want to avoid stress, there's no place on the planet where you can do that.
Absolutely.
Not even the Antarctica. Before we used to think that, you know, Antarctica is just wild, just snow and ice and wilderness. Well, it's not like that anymore. Mm. They've got brown mountains, the ice has melted, and things are going on that are beyond human comprehension. How did we get to all this? So whatever is going on, I need to find a way to be stable, in which I can be in touch with myself and I can have the capacity to help others around me. Imagine if there's something unexpected that's happening in your family. If you're stable and you're the anchor, your whole family benefits. Mm. And so every one of us, we have many, many others who are around us needing our support and help. But if I become strong, I can help them.
And I think the strength is, it's important that we don't become brittle with that strength, that we have that flexibility. And when you spoke about the power of tolerance, I think we have to be tolerant with ourselves first, because a lot of the irritation comes from me beating myself up. And as you said about the car journey, well, if we hadn't gone this way, we might have got there sooner. You can always say, what if? Or if I'd not done this, or if I'd done that. And so it's beginning to let go of some of those that then makes me more tolerant of the situations or other people. And so I think the powers have to work on me first.
Absolutely. we have a saying that goes something like inside out. Whatever is going on inside is what's going to be expressed outside. If I'm content not because I'm stagnant or because I'm not growing, but I'm content because I'm moving with the speed of things, I'm understanding what's going on, and I'm in step with that. I'm not fighting it or battling with it, but I'm moving along with the flow. So that state of contentment inside, and I'm connecting with you, be much easier to connect.
Yes.
If I'm discontent inside, and there's things that are going on that I'm not able to deal with, what's going to be the tone of my voice when I talk to you? What's going to be the feeling and the vibration you get from me?
That you're discontent with me before
exactly.
I've said or done anything.
Exactly.
Yes. And I think there's been a lot of that in the world, and most of us have seen it somewhere in our lives. So that feeling of me first is so important. And I have to put the effort in on me. You can't put the effort in on me. And I think that's something, again, that gives me that ownership and that self-responsibility. Even if I think, yes, but I didn't make that happen. No, but if I just take responsibility for it, I'm beginning to own myself, as you said earlier, my thoughts, my energy, and how I treat myself then impacts how I treat others.
I'm thinking about Dadi Janki and how she had to face all sorts of things during the early days of her spiritual journey, because having a woman surrender to God, it's, why should a woman surrender to God? She's supposed to surrender to her family. So there's a lot of opposition at that time. So she managed all of that. And then she had to deal with a lot of illnesses that her body was going through. But she did it with that sense of inner peace, inner love, inner joy. And of course, many of you met her and knew her. And she became a lighthouse for so many of us, showing us the path. And so it's possible to face all sorts of challenges, but be able to rise above all of those and let the inner light shine, so that you're a person who's experiencing joy, but everybody around you takes inspiration from that also. She lived to be 104, and even when she was 203, she flew across the 5 continents and served in 5 continents. And age 104, she was stationed in India at that point. She went to Bangalore and she went to Pune and then came back to Ahmedabad and Abu. And that was all within the first 3 months of the year. And then she left us in March. So 104, can you believe it? A mind that was still able to think clearly, a mind that was able to give inspiration to others, a mind that was able to go beyond the trials of the body and just be happy and continue to serve. Well, how did she do it? She didn't do it herself. She did it with help from above. And that help is available for all of us.
I remember the first time I think I saw her was in Oxford. And the joy that and the fun that was so evident in her face, and as she looked around and was thinking as someone else was speaking. And you think, oh, that's how I want to be in my 80s. Because she did have that joy, which continued.
Yeah.
And she shared it with so many.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate to know her and
Absolutely.
have her in the UK for so long.
40 years. She lived in the UK for 40 years and then was asked to come back to India. But even then she was travelling here. First it was 3 times a year, then it became 2 times a year.
And now you're travelling lots as well, and we don't see you as often. But, and you are an inspiration to us all. So can I ask you to perhaps, unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about on the topic of well-being and spirituality, to guide us in a meditation?
Let's experiment with a meditation,
Okay, that'd be
because
lovely. Thank you.
there'll always be 1,000 ideas to share. but the actual experience is something very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. We pulled in Carolyn right at the last minute because my throat couldn't have coped with talking for an hour, and she was very kind and instantly said yes. So, sitting comfortably, I go on an inner journey. I visualize a point of light in the center of the forehead. And it is here that thoughts and feelings, awareness, consciousness, memory, personality, conscience, all exist. And I just watch my thoughts. And as I watch my thoughts, the speed of my thoughts slows down. And I choose one thought. I select the thought of peace. I hold peace in my mind, and I experience the feeling of peace. And the power of peace spreads out all around. And in this sense of peace, I can feel the presence of the source of light, of love, of peace. And from the source, all these qualities reach me and awaken the same attributes within myself. And these qualities reach out into the atmosphere. They touch human souls so that they are able to experience this. These qualities reach out to all forms of life and beyond. To the plant kingdom and all the elements of matter. And the power of peace generates harmony amongst all. Harmony in myself, harmony with others, harmony with the animal kingdom, harmony with all forms of life, including the plant kingdom. And as we move towards harmony, we start creating a better world. I hold this vision of a better world in front of me. And now, as I come back to the awareness of this room and the time here and now, I hold this vision of a better world. I also just want to say that this program has been created to be a tribute to Brahma Baba. It's the anniversary of his ascension to the angelic state tomorrow. And so you see extra decorations here. But one single individual has been an instrument to serve millions and inspire so many to change their life for the better and to serve the world. So one person can do so much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.